This is a bottom-up financial revolution. This is a belief in breaking the century. Revival and chaos are merely the beginning of a new order, while collapse is nothing more than the curtain call for the old paradigm. Code is law. The crypto world returns sovereignty to individuals and lets computing power reshape trust. Welcome to CryptoTalk. Hello, Sister Ka. Hello, Kevin. The first time I met her in New York, I asked, "Why does everyone call you Sister Ka?" She said, "That's a long story. Where do you want me to start?" All right. Let me introduce Taylor.
Taylor. Hello, Kevin.
Hello there, Sister Ka, and Mitara. Come on, let's step into the exciting world of crypto together. Today, we are going to have a very important talk about security for everyone. Welcome everyone to Secret Talk. This is the first season of the crypto community's roundtable talk show. We want to thank Gate for fully sponsoring the first season of Secret Talk. There's a QR code on our screen. Scan this QR code to download the Gate Exchange app. Today we've invited the wonderful Sister Ka. From New York to Hong Kong, we have Matera's CEO and also our Gate mascot teacher, Kevin. Taylor is now working on blockchain infrastructure. Under the whole Animoca umbrella, your project is called Mocha. So since today's topic is security, we've got a lot to talk about. Actually, I think security can be divided into internal and external aspects. I think I'm an incurable optimist, and my sense of security is super strong. No matter where I go, for example, people say Bangkok is dangerous, but I feel totally safe. And then coming into Web3, I also feel like on a psychological level, it adds another layer of security for me. So I think that your own understanding of the world, or your sense of control over security in the Web3 world, if you feel secure, then you are secure. Speaking for yourselves, are you someone with a strong sense of security?
I think my understanding is the same as yours. Security comes from inner strength. The whole system, your sense of security, actually starts with being strong inside. Externally, your framework needs to be robust as well. You have foundational infrastructure in place to ensure security, and you know which layers are constantly protecting you. At the same time, you have a certain level of risk tolerance internally. This combination of internal stability and an external system forms a very important structure for our sense of security.
Yes, Kaka is a really remarkable person. When I met her in New York, she was so decisive and efficient. Nothing like the typical girl who needs to tidy up or fuss over things. She just gets things done, sits down and starts talking.
That's my sense of security.
She's secure.
When you're strong inside, you don't need that many external tools. You just need your own system.
What about you, Kevin? Do you think you have a strong sense of security?
As for me, I don't really think much about this kind of thing. The first half is just planning. Like, I'll look at something and think, oh, this looks nice, and then I'll go for a run, even if it's late. I never really thought about whether Dubai is a safe place or not. After I finish a lap, people ask, did you run into anyone or anything happen? And I say, no, nothing happened. But then I'll think, maybe I should Google whether Dubai is safe or not. But it's fine, because the places I go in Asia Pacific, like Japan, Hong Kong, Singapore, Dubai, are all very safe. Or sometimes you go to places like Banjarmasin and you don't really think about it until after you've been there.
That's nothing. I went to Angkor Wat and wandered the streets alone at night. I never even thought about whether it was safe or not. Later, people told me that maybe I really shouldn't have been out at night in Angkor Wat, that it's actually pretty scary. But I felt like nothing really happened either. Taylor?
Personally, I really lack a sense of security, but I think that a sense of security is different from self-confidence. Self-confidence is feeling like you can do anything well. On this side, I do have a sense of security, but on the other hand, when it comes to things like wallet data and privacy, I'm extremely cautious about a lot of things. I just think it doesn't hurt to do a little more, to be a bit safer.
Right.
That way, it's the best.
When it comes to safety, there's no such thing as a small matter. Doing a bit more for safety is never wrong.
Yeah, because I've heard too many stories like people being careless, for example, hiring someone for some other reason and then something bad happens. So the best and safest thing is just not to touch it at all. That's the safest.
Do you know how insecure Taylor actually feels? He'll go online and Google his own name and photos. If there's anything he doesn't like or that makes him unhappy, does it affect your mood?
Not really, but I just don't like having too much stuff about me online. because of my job, because I need to represent the company on the next show. Well, there's nothing I can do about it. I actually looked into how to remove things from the internet before. All the data.
Erase it.
Yeah, there are services like that.
Actually, in Web3, security, in this world, I think there are just too many hard-learned lessons, too many stories to talk about. From this side, things are more positive. On this side, things are a bit more gray. Let's first ask the person who feels the least secure. Have you ever experienced any security incidents, either in Web3 or even in Web2? Where do you think your sense of security comes from?
I think there are actually a few sources of security for me.
Sure, keeping your private information safe makes you feel secure.
That's also a kind of security. Another sense of security comes from financial security, which means being able to access your assets anywhere. Being able to access your assets at any time is also extremely important. For example, the environment is one form, and then there's another one. A form could be, for example, Bitcoin or other assets.
A couple of days ago, I read a book, and it talked about where people's sense of security comes from. It said that people's sense of security comes from violence, which is kind of hard to understand, right? You trust the system because it can use force to protect your assets. So they won't be violated. But after entering Web3, I realized I don't need violence anymore. As long as I have my private key, what's mine is truly mine. In fact, this gives me an extra layer of security when it comes to safety. I was already someone who felt secure, but I found that after entering the Web3 world in the future, my sense of security will only increase even more.
You mentioned violence, or what we call power. Yes, that's the concept. Actually, besides the word power, I'd like to bring up another word, the unknown. That's because safety and the unknown are a trade-off. I think Taylor's method is about controlling external variables, which means controlling possibilities. Trying to minimize risk exposure. This is a fundamental principle often found in safety frameworks and exchanges. After so many years, my understanding is that any kind of innovation or creative attempt we make will bring about insecurity and uncertainty. Maybe this broadens the topic a bit. Why is it that current regulators, when dealing with the field of digital currency, are so passive? And only when they absolutely have to act do they suddenly start to have a big reaction? It's because they have always rejected this kind of uncertainty. They don't understand it, these things. He doesn't want to leave it remote, right. He also knows that if this chain continues, for example, with stablecoins, if this bill follows along this chain, from KYC to AML to custody to whitelists and blacklists, all the players along the stablecoin chain would all need to be completely overhauled. So everyone wonders, how can I possibly figure out all the potential scenarios? So when we talk about unknown forces and security, I think it's like relativity. It applies to a system. Within a system, controlling external changes is feasible, and there are some basic principles. The internal principles are, for example, what things I must do and what things I must not do. But this framework might limit our development, especially in some high-tech fields. If you are overly concerned about the potential ethical or philosophical issues of AI, you'll stop right there. Then our civilization will have no way to progress. So when we talk about a higher or larger space, or when we talk about topics like time and we discuss safety, I still believe it ultimately depends on inner strength. That is, you need to be flexible and resilient enough to handle all the unknowns. But at the core, there must be principles. For example, I don't always walk by the river, or at least I wouldn't wander alone in a warehouse. And as a CEO of a company, I also wouldn't frequently try things like skydiving or deep diving. These kinds of things could put myself in high-risk situations, things like that. This is one of my personal principles. Of course, today when we talk about digital currency, for example, we regularly change our two-factor authentication. And we must bind various types of authentication methods. These are all our principles. This is the principle of security. It's the core of first principles. Secondly, it's about external factors. For example, have we established a good framework? That is our strength. And only after that comes the question, when I'm innovating, should I give up certain opportunities because of security concerns? Because I'm a serial entrepreneur in my case, this issue simply doesn't exist in my context. Even if I think it's unknown, uncontrollable, and could pose security risks, I would still go ahead and challenge it.
If you don't try, how will you ever know what the outcome is?
Exactly. So for me, what I'm saying is I think we need to stick to the most fundamental principles and have a solid and robust security framework allows us to face unknown and changing environments. That's what I consider to be a proper security framework.
Even though there are risks, I still think we should try, because risk and reward are directly proportional.
In the unknown, might isn't enough, but your inner skills can protect you.
I would teach some people to play defense because being an entrepreneur is mainly about offense. Exactly.
I really
Like that analogy. So teach some people to come back and help you defend so you can go out there with peace of mind. Attack.
At hackathons, you guys attack me, and then after the event, I pay you to break through my defenses. Security defenses, right?
When I first started working, my very first job was actually in cybersecurity at JP Morgan. Yes, at that time I was in the Asia Pacific region with over 140 people. It was the largest cybersecurity team in Asia Pacific. Back then, the first thing I learned is still useful to this day, no matter how good your technical skills are. In the end, your security issues still come down to people. It's about social engineering. And this position, the key element in the middle of all this, is the most important. Back then, I saw so many things, so it was a must. Now, when I see or hear about things, nothing seems strange anymore. This isn't a problem unique to Web3 or Web2 or even traditional finance. It's a human problem. As long as people are involved, these security issues will always exist. It's something we talk about every day. Why are there so many hacks in Web3? And the same would go for Web4 too. No matter if it's something else or if we just know a bit more, these problems won't simply disappear. Every single day in our own little world, there are only about 20-something million people worldwide who have entered this space. Whether it's making their first educational purchase or buying their first, whether it's NFTs or getting on X or checking out the first alpha up there, they just don't understand any of it. After seeing so many cycles and experiencing so much, have we really paid our dues? I think this is a problem that just can't be solved. We just keep going with it.
In the dark forest, you never know when you'll get shot. I've always had this thought. In Web3, the ones making the most money are not you guys building infrastructure, nor are we in media and communications. It's not the people running exchanges either. Do you know who makes the most?
hackers.
Exactly. For hackers, it's insanely profitable.
But the cost actually is also pretty high.
Yeah, it's high too. The time cost.
It's a zero or one issue, right?
Once they succeed in an attack, it's a huge payoff. Let me ask everyone a question. For example, our B2 exchange and traditional stock exchanges. Which do you think is safer? I have a perspective. Look, crypto exchanges, whether it's Gate or any of the top tier exchanges, they're all facing all kinds of hacker attacks every day. They have to guard against every possible threat in the market. For example, the security software of the Hong Kong Stock Exchange, I don't believe it faces nearly as many hacker attacks, or that it has enough government documentation to provide it with strong security support. Its security buffer is high, but if everything were left to compete in the open market, I would rather trust those exchanges that are attacked by hackers every single day. These exchanges, born from such threats, feel much more secure. What do you think?
I think, for example, the security of exchanges in Hong Kong is definitely very well done. If it were to be attacked, actually the entire stock market would drop. And when you're trading contracts, you can short it. Actually, this gives everyone a chance to make money. Where there are opportunities to make money, there will be risks. And where there are risks, there will be security measures. One issue is that the security of securities exchanges is definitely extremely secure.
Do they have so many hackers doing stress tests for them every day? Probably not, right?
Actually, they probably don't, because there are two types. Security measures. One type is for safekeeping. And then there are some encryption algorithms under blockchain technology. So on this basis, exchanges on the blockchain are relatively secure, but traditional exchanges have already been operating for many, many years. Plus, banks and others have a lot of different processes and procedures, as well as staff training. Everyone's understanding is different. Over there, in my view, exchanges are relatively mature.
The question you just raised is actually a real issue, especially for traditional banks. They also face hackers every day. There definitely are such incidents. When I was at JP Morgan, that was more than 20 years ago. There are fake websites popping up every day, and now it's even easier with things like ChatGPT, phishing sites. In just 15 minutes, someone can set one up and steal your password. But this is also an old topic. Nowadays, banks have security measures like two-factor authentication, and so do crypto exchanges in the crypto world. But whether people actually use them or whether they trust two-factor authentication, sometimes they end up giving it to phishing sites along with their passwords. But even with phishing sites, it doesn't matter how much security you have, it's still useless. One good thing about the crypto world is that, as mentioned earlier, traditional finance has been around for so many years. They've made so many mistakes, and they've accumulated all this experience. Now we have that too, and we don't even need 10 years to learn from it. We've basically taken all the experience they've accumulated over so many years. I myself came to the crypto world with over 10 years of banking experience. It turns out that in less than a year, I was able to apply all of it. So in terms of technology, I think things are actually pretty good here. But the problem is people in the crypto world don't have that much time or that much experience, and that's where the problem comes in.
I think this is an experience issue. It's really about time. It's always a matter of time spent accumulating costs. For example, traditional exchanges like the Hong Kong Stock Exchange and NASDAQ, I believe they have security teams and compliance teams with hundreds of people. With an organization of that scale, what they've built up is, we've also talked before about how within the existing current system, security incidents still happen frequently, but that doesn't necessarily mean the system can be breached. So in this situation, I think, relatively speaking, the stability, if we take a snapshot and look at it right now, the stability is still somewhat better in the traditional financial industry. I'll say something controversial. The world is a makeshift ragtag operation. In my experience, an exchange is just entrepreneurs building a platform together. Then suddenly a really good asset opportunity comes along. Or after there's a huge surge, a breakout moment, the first thing you have to deal with is business growth. At that point, actually, hackers are already eyeing you, but you won't know it, lacking the time to think or the understanding yet. So from 0 to 1, risk exposure is extremely high. Sometimes you only get through it by sheer luck. Otherwise, as long as you're big enough and have enough funds accumulated, you will definitely become a target. It's just based on whether it's your group of black hat hackers, white hat hackers, or whatever kind of hackers. It depends on their skill level, how skilled they are, how long they've been lying in wait, and how wide their net is. So in terms of risk or security, it will definitely be the financial institutions in the city. All right, but just now I really agreed with something Kevin said. He said that by standing on the shoulders of giants, we can learn very quickly. This really tests the team's ability to learn and to grow rapidly. If you have a team with these qualities, for example, we've also heard that some exchanges hacked, collapsed, or defaulted on payouts, while others recovered from setbacks. Some exchanges even settled many hacking and theft incidents internally.
Is there any exchange that has never been hacked? Are there any?
From a probability perspective, I think it's possible. It's just that maybe they didn't make it. They didn't have any money, so no one targeted them, right? But as for the ones we've heard of that actually made it, they've all definitely experienced it.
How should we understand these hacker incidents? Basically, at exchanges, we need to guard against and prevent hacks. Have any of you ever experienced being hacked? I know Sister Car seems to have been hacked so many times, it's like a sieve.
That's true.
That just means she has money. Whether hackers attack you also depends on whether you have enough assets at your address.
Let me briefly share with everyone, because this topic is a bit sensitive. That is to say, I personally have also been hacked, and the organization I belong to has experienced similar incidents as well. To put it simply first, do you have enough awareness of risks? I would say this comes from experience. For example, in traditional finance, the first few weeks are all about safety training and security education, right? They tell you all kinds of cases and let you see many strange things that have happened. The possibilities. But in our industry, such a comprehensive system mostly doesn't exist. So many people with experience in exchanges actually don't have that much incident handling experience. If a competitor is hacked, they won't share their cases. Nobody writes, "This is my case and why I got hacked." No such book exists. A complete collection of exchange hacking cases. So in fact, our understanding in this area is very limited. But I think some exchanges definitely do this. For example, when the founding team or the core team has enough risk control and security awareness, they will build a relatively strong security team. Then they'll go on to set up some basic frameworks and educational initiatives, and also establish a basic protection system. This protection system includes reminding your employees to change their 2FA regularly. For example, it's not allowed to bind cross-authentication, and they are required to constantly update their passwords in real time. If 3 months pass and you don't change it, or if a month passes, if you don't change your password will become unusable. All of these are basic educational tasks, and they are cyclical. For new employees, for example, if there's a link in an email that you're not sure about, don't click it. These are all soft measures at the human level. But at the infrastructure level, there will definitely be a lot of hard controls. For example, our antivirus software, remote control management systems. All of these are security measures. They actually provide you with an extra layer of protection without you even noticing, right? So from the perspective of the exchange, being an employee is a fortunate thing, because you're being protected by others. And there are people constantly teaching you, like a father teaching his daughter to stay away from that bad guy. From advice to warnings, they all protect you. This ensures the security of the exchange's funds. In fact, most security breaches start with individuals gets breached. It's not that the entire system was breached, but rather that someone found a few entry points and got in. Some of these are breaches caused by humans, but for us as individuals, it's often because many of the bosses here also have significant amounts of digital assets. So in this situation, I think it's the same. It's about how much you personally have know-how. If you are familiar with cold wallets, hot wallets, and have a solid understanding of security. If you're used to changing your passwords and you don't tell anyone where you store your private key. And for example, I have a safe deposit box at a bank in New York, a vault. I keep my passwords distributed across each safe deposit box in each vault. Then I've also set up a trust, and I have lawyers managing it for me. I think this setup is very sound, but most people probably can't reach this level. So the level you choose will determine your own risk. As for security levels, I personally have a history of being hacked and stolen from because I was actually exposed on exchanges within this system. So I personally also attract attention. Come on.
Tell us your story about being hacked. Let us have a little fun.
You guys are even more famous. So simply put, in the personal sphere, this really is my issue. The last point I want to share with everyone is that I didn't take it seriously. Working so much, I focused more on exchange hacks and thefts than my own security. I just didn't think much of that little cold wallet. I just really wanted the exchange to go smoothly. My mindset at the time was the problem. I knew I was exposing myself to certain risks, but didn't change my approach. All my systems, my passwords, I just thought it was too much trouble. Yeah.
So it was your hot wallet that got hacked?
Yes, my hot wallet was hacked, and then the cold wallet was hacked.
How did they hack the hot wallet?
They got access to the private key.
They got the private key. That means your private key had already been exposed to risk countless times.
That's why I say it's like being hacked into a sieve. The problem is your entire Apple management system, your email system. Some of the apps on your desktop, they can all be breached. They might spend a long time on it, months or even years. Depending on how much money they can get, they'll lie in wait within your system until they'll take as much as they want. But usually it's a long-term infiltration. When they actually make a move, they succeed in just an instant. And I really was attacked. The hacker would even chat with me.
Did you click on a link you shouldn't have?
I don't think so. I think it was premeditated. I was actually targeted by an exchange. As someone who has received a thorough and systematic education, I would never click on a link I don't recognize. But if someone deliberately wants to hack you, I think...
Could it be someone you know, someone close to you?
I'm starting to think...
That's the key to solving the case.
I'm a pessimist. It was likely an inside job involving internal and external collusion.
Right. I think anyone who can chat with you like that must have been watching you for a long time and knows that you have weak security awareness. As the owner of an exchange, let's not mention which exchange, but when you realize your own assets or your exchange, when there's a security issue, what was your first reaction at that moment?
First, you have to distinguish between company and personal assets. If it's company assets, the first thing is how I should handle it. When theft continues, emergency response is the most important thing. Emergency response. You have to prevent the stolen amount from increasing further, especially when there are so many chains involved. You have to race against time with the hacker, chain by chain, like a contest of skills. Make sure the hacker can't steal any more funds from this chain, right? Then the next step is, after stopping all the leaks, how do we audit the losses? We need to ensure that we can make up for the user's financial losses. I think this topic is also extremely important. The rest is about how to rebuild afterwards and how to restore trust. So these are the three main steps. First, immediately stop the loss. Second, figure out exactly how much loss there is and how to deal with it. And finally, how to restore everyone's trust. Personally, I think actually I didn't handle it very well because honestly, after I put all my energy into this matter, I didn't have much energy left to deal with my personal issues. So I think maybe what I needed was some kind of spiritual recovery. Just let it go. Haha. And then take some time to reestablish my own sense of security. The system is like this. Even if you don't have time, you still have to stay up late to deal with some passwords. Recharge it.
What's the largest personal loss you've suffered? How many digits?
Million level.
Million level in dollars. Well, I actually feel pretty relieved about that. Ha ha ha.
For me, it's not too bad. At least there was no virus involved. I don't have that much money, so it's not as bad for me. But I do have a story, not about myself, but about someone around me. Because of me, well, because of you, yeah, some people were looking for things in the field. Whatever I said, there are just a lot of people in this field, and I've always been involved in it. He said he was a bit upset, like, hey, I've been talking to you for so many weeks. Why are you acting like you just found me? I said, no. When I was on Telegram talking to you, it was only 2 weeks. No, so I was faking it, right? And it wasn't just one person, there were a lot of people. They teamed up to scam you, right? And different people had different approaches. Some people said, yeah, you're in Gate, let me find a saint for you, do you want it? I didn't want it either. I don't know what they're trying to scam him for, but it's like, do you want this saint princess to come or not? Another one might be a friend from the Zhang family. He said, I don't have any money. I'm over here or there. Can you send me some you? There were those kinds too. If you look now, that person might still be around. Still over there, yes, but at that time I actually wanted to go. I mean, just type your own name in, whether it's online, Telegram, or Twitter, and see where this person is. Tenor just mentioned another issue, which is that everything is public. There are a lot of business scams. Even now, my phone, I'm afraid to answer it.
Why?
Do you know about this? Heartbeat spoofing, stealing heartbeats.
No way. When I was talking to you in Taipei, you ignored me, right? Just because you weren't sure if it was really me.
No, it's just that now I'm scared. I don't even answer the phone anymore, not even for you. Just put it on for a second, like, hello, who is this? Where are you calling from? Just listen once, and in 10 seconds, your voice can be cloned. Yeah, after you listen a few times, they say now it's already possible. AI is so advanced now, right? Yeah, I know. Everyone is worried about these things. In Hong Kong, there are cases like this too, where someone is in a Zoom meeting. On the screen, it shows the name of a certain executive, like so-and-so from a listed company. So if you transfer the company's money somewhere to a certain person, it just gets sent. This is just too outrageous. Going back to what I said earlier, it's not necessarily always the case. It's not something that's absolutely necessary, but now it just keeps getting more and more extreme.
So have you ever personally experienced any financial issues, like being hacked?
Personally, for me, it's been mostly okay. I haven't actually lost any money yet. Of course, there are always some very strange links or suspicious things like PDFs that I just don't dare to open anymore. I've definitely received those kinds of messages too.
Because I feel especially insecure. That's why nothing like that has happened to me.
Never had issues with your personal assets?
No, I haven't. Because all my assets are under custody. I always look for institutional custodians.
That's great.
That's great. You even keep your personal assets with institutional custodians.
I wouldn't dare. I just wouldn't dare. I've never dared to use institutional custodians myself. I always keep everything in a cold wallet. I only trust cold wallets.
Yeah, I have cold wallets too. Those are mine. The whole setup is that I have several cold wallets and I store different tokens in each. And then there are also hot wallets. But hot wallets are only used when needed. You have to use some hardware for MFA before you can send assets to the hot wallet to make a transaction. Then you send it back to the cold wallet and do MFA again. And the safest way is to let a custodial institution handle it. Because I don't have time to manage so many things myself, so some hardware and things like seed phrases are stored in different places. Yeah, that's the safest way.
Right, and also some assets are kept with decentralized institutions, some in cold wallets.
And also use different phones for different wallets.
Avoid keeping excess in one wallet.
That way you reduce your risk exposure. I only use Apple's ecosystem just for wallet-related things. I don't use any other apps at all.
So if someone steals your phone today,
there's basically nothing on it.
I've also learned to separate things now, even though I'm someone who usually feels very secure. But when it comes to digital security, I think I'm still very careful. For example, the phone I use to receive verification codes and the phone I use to operate exchanges are always kept separate. Even if you get hold of any one of my phones, you still can't transfer my assets. That's what I think about personal security. And then let me tell you all a story. This is something I personally experienced, though it didn't happen to me directly. But I witnessed the development of this story with my own eyes. He was an early member of our channel back when we had just started selling. When we first started selling Ethereum mining machines, he bought a large number of them at that time. At that time, Ethereum was still just over $100, and then it went from a little over $100 to more than $4,000. From what I know, he was able to accumulate a significant amount of initial capital. Then one day, he called me. It was a woman, actually, an older lady who called me. She asked me if she could buy 600 Ethereum and just hold on to them. I said, sure, you can. At that time, Ethereum wasn't expensive either, about $2,000 or $3,000 each. Then, about 20 minutes later, she said, I made a mistake. I bought 600 Bitcoin instead. This happened in 2019. And then at the end of last year, in 2024, he called me and said, Michael, is there any problem with that wallet? I asked, did we ever recommend a certain brand of wallet? If it's that wallet, there definitely shouldn't be any problem. It's a cold wallet, he said. My 600 Bitcoin, gone. At that moment, my hair stood on end. First, I had to confirm that he really did have 600 Bitcoin. Second, how could you possibly lose them? I asked him at the time, how did you keep your private key? Tell me about it. He said that his financial manager had it stored somewhere on a hard drive. I said, then it must be your financial manager who caused the problem. It's definitely him. Then he said, there's more. I asked, what else? He said, I saved my private key in my WeChat favorites. I asked, anywhere else? Any other place where you exposed your private key? He said, I sent my private key to my daughter in the US. She's in America. If you need to use Bitcoin, you can get it from here. I said, then you can't blame your business manager. At every step, you had the risk of leaking it. Your suspicion can be cleared. You can't blame others for this. So what should you do? Go find Manwu. If your assets are large enough, you can look for Manwu or an institution. They can help you lock down and recover these assets. Let me explain this to everyone. To recover these assets first, Manwu charges a 20,000 yuan initiation fee. This is their hard cost, and then they will sign a contract with you. If you recover your assets, they will take 10% as their profit. So if your assets exceed $20,000 and you are sure they can be recovered, if there is a possibility of getting them back, you can look for Manwu to help. White hats can assist you as well. Moreover, you need to cooperate by providing the police report records. He collected all the police reports from the Public Security Bureau and proof of his assets. Okay, then Manwu helped him track down each address where the bitcoins were transferred, which was fortunate. Now, more than 50 bitcoins have been recovered, and they are still searching for more. It turns out they can still be recovered. It really is Bitcoin, it really is Bitcoin. There really are more than 600 bitcoins. Because I don't do KYC for my clients, I don't do KYC for any of my followers. I absolutely hate KYC. I don't need to know who you are, you know me. As long as I know who you are, that's enough. That's the kind of trust we have between us. And only then did I find out. He is actually an early shareholder of a very large publicly listed company in China. So you see,